I almost burned my garage down. That's not a joke. That's not clickbait. That actually happened to me 3 years ago, and it's the real reason I'm sitting here today talking to you about batteries. I had a cheap lithium battery, not LiFePO4, a different kind. And one night, it started smoking. I smelled something strange around midnight. I walked into my garage, and there it was. A small orange glow coming from a battery pack I built with zero research and zero safety planning. I grabbed a fire extinguisher. My hands were shaking. I put it out in less than a minute, but that minute felt like an hour. That night changed how I think about power storage forever. If you're new here, welcome to Boring Economic Update. Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to show you could save you thousands of dollars, and maybe even save your home. I'm not exaggerating. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how I built a battery bank that is safe, reliable, and cost me less than $250. Not $2,000, not $500. Under $250. Let's rewind a bit. After that scary night, I didn't give up on batteries. I got obsessed with understanding them. I wanted to know why that battery caught fire. I wanted to know what I did wrong. And more importantly, I wanted to know what the safest option actually was. That's when I discovered something called LiFePO4, lithium iron phosphate. A completely different chemistry than the lithium-ion cells found in most cheap power banks and off-brand battery packs. It doesn't behave the same way under stress. It doesn't overheat the same way. It doesn't punish small mistakes the way regular lithium does. But here's the problem. Everywhere I looked online, people were saying LiFePO4 batteries are expensive. Some videos showed setups costing $800. Some showed setups costing over $1,000. I remember thinking, there's no way I'm spending that kind of money just to have backup power at home. So I made it my mission to figure out if there was a cheaper way, a safer way, a smarter way. And that mission is exactly what led me to build the battery bank I'm about to show you. Now, before I get into the build, I want you to understand why this even matters. Power outages are becoming more common. Storms are getting worse. The grid is getting older. And if you've been paying attention to your electricity bill lately, you already know energy prices are not going down anytime soon. People are looking for ways to protect themselves. Some buy generators. Some buy expensive whole home battery systems. But most people don't realize there's a middle path, a path that doesn't require a 5-figure investment, a path that gives you real backup power, real peace of mind, and real savings, all without putting your family at risk. I remember the exact moment I decided to build this system. It was during a blackout that lasted almost 6 hours. My phone was dying. My fridge was warming up. My kids were asking why the lights weren't working. And I sat there thinking, I have the knowledge now. I understand the chemistry. I understand the risks. Why am I not using this to protect my own home? That night, I made a decision. I was going to build a battery bank, not a fancy one, not an overpriced one, a smart one. One that any average person, even someone who's never touched an electrical tool before, could understand and replicate. Here's the wild part. Most people assume battery safety and battery affordability don't go together. They assume if something is cheap, it must be dangerous. And if something is safe, it must be expensive. I want to challenge that idea today, because what I'm about to show you proves that assumption wrong. It's possible to build something safe, something reliable, and something affordable, all at the same time. You just need to know where to look, what to avoid, and how to think about this differently than most YouTube tutorials teach you. Before I even touched a single part, I made 3 rules for myself. Rule number 1, safety comes before savings. I was not going to cut corners just to save an extra $10 or $20. Rule number 2, every component had to serve a clear purpose. No unnecessary extras, no flashy add-ons just for looks. Rule number 3, I wanted this build to be something a complete beginner could follow, not just electricians, not just hobbyists, regular people like you and me. I started researching cell types. I looked at prismatic cells, I looked at cylindrical cells, I compared brands, I read failure reports, I looked at what caused fires in other builds online. And slowly, a picture started to form. Most fire incidents with lithium batteries don't happen because of the battery chemistry alone. They happen because of poor battery management systems, bad wiring, cheap connectors, or a complete lack of protection circuits. In other words, most fires are not caused by the battery. They're caused by human shortcuts. That single realization changed everything for me. It meant the real secret to a fire-safe battery bank wasn't just choosing LiFePO4 cells. It was about respecting the entire system. The battery management system, the wiring gauge, the fusing, the enclosure, the ventilation, every single piece mattered. And once I understood that, the cost started to make a lot more sense. I wasn't going to spend money on flashy branding. I was going to spend money exactly where it counted and save money everywhere else. I began sourcing parts slowly. I didn't rush into a single purchase. I compared prices across multiple sellers. I looked at reviews. I looked at return policies. I looked at actual user experiences, not just 5-star ratings that seemed too perfect to be true. This part took me almost 2 weeks. Not because it was complicated, but because I wanted to be absolutely sure before spending a single dollar. And slowly, piece by piece, my plan started coming together. By the time I had my full parts list ready, something surprising happened. When I added up the total cost, I sat there staring at the number for almost a full minute. I recalculated it 3 times because I didn't believe it. $240-something. That's it. For a battery bank capable of running essential home devices during an outage, for a system built with fire-safe chemistry, for something that felt, in my hands, incredibly solid and dependable. But I'm not going to tell you the exact parts list just yet, because before we get into that, you need to understand something important, something most tutorials skip completely, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Before I show you a single part of my list, I need to explain the thing that almost every battery tutorial online completely ignores. And that thing is the battery management system, or what people in this space call the BMS. Most beginners think the battery cells themselves are the most important part of the build. They're not wrong exactly, but they're missing the bigger picture. The BMS is the brain of the entire system. It's the part that decides when to stop charging, when to stop discharging, when something is overheating, and when something is going wrong before you even notice it. A battery without a proper BMS is like a car without brakes. It might drive just fine for a while, but eventually something goes wrong, and when it does, there's nothing there to stop it. When I was rebuilding my trust in battery systems after that scary night in my garage, I promised myself I would never again treat the BMS as an afterthought. Cheap kits online often bundle in a BMS that looks fine on paper, but cuts corners in ways you can't see until it's too late. So I spent real time comparing options. I looked at amperage ratings. I looked at whether the BMS had active balancing or passive balancing. I looked at temperature cutoff features. And I made sure whatever I chose matched the exact specifications of the cells I was planning to use. This single decision, more than any other, is what separates a fire-safe build from a ticking time bomb. Now let's talk about the cells themselves. I ended up going with prismatic LiFePO4 cells, sourced individually rather than buying a pre-made pack. I know that sounds intimidating if you've never done this before, but stick with me, because I'm going to walk you through exactly why this approach saved money without sacrificing safety. Buying pre-assembled battery packs often means paying a premium for labor and branding. By sourcing quality cells directly and assembling them myself with proper care and the right tools, I was able to cut a significant chunk of cost out of the build. But I want to be honest with you here. This step is not for someone who wants to rush. This is the step where patience matters most. I remember laying out all 4 cells on my workbench for the first time. I checked each one individually before connecting anything. I tested voltage. I looked for any physical damage, any swelling, any signs of poor manufacturing. This is something a lot of beginners skip, and it's a mistake. Never assume a battery cell is safe just because it looks new in the packaging. Testing before assembly is one of the simplest ways to prevent a future disaster. It costs you nothing but a little bit of time, and that time could be the difference between years of safe use and a nightmare scenario. Once I confirmed the cells were solid, I moved on to spacing and enclosure design. This is another part people underestimate. Cells need breathing room. They need proper ventilation. They need to be secured in a way that prevents movement, vibration, or accidental short circuits. I didn't buy some expensive fireproof case built specifically for battery banks. Instead, I found a practical, well-ventilated enclosure that fit the dimensions perfectly, reinforced it slightly for stability, and made sure there was enough airflow around the cells at all times. This decision alone saved a good amount of money compared to specialty battery enclosures that are marked up simply because of their branding. Wiring came next, and this is where I want to slow down for a moment because wiring mistakes are one of the leading causes of home battery fires. I did not use random wire I had lying around. I calculated the exact gauge needed based on the amperage the system would be handling. Using wire that's too thin for the current running through it causes heat buildup, and heat buildup is exactly how fires start. I used properly rated wire, secured every connection tightly, and double-checked polarity multiple times before ever applying power. I know that sounds excessive, but this is the kind of caution that turns a risky hobby project into something you can trust with your family's safety. Fusing was the next piece of the puzzle, and honestly, this is a step some cheaper tutorials skip entirely just to make the build look simpler. I added an appropriately rated fuse between the battery and the load. Think of a fuse as your last line of defense. If everything else somehow fails, if the BMS has a hiccup, if a wire gets pinched, if something unexpected happens, the fuse is what stops a small problem from turning into a fire. It's a cheap component, often just a few dollars, but its importance is enormous. I'll never build a battery system without one again. As I was assembling all these pieces together, something interesting started happening in my head. I began to realize this project wasn't really about saving money anymore. Yes, staying under $250 mattered to me, but somewhere along the way, This became about control, about independence, about knowing that if the power went out again, my family wouldn't be sitting in the dark wondering when the lights would come back. We would have light. We would have a way to charge our phones. We would have a way to keep essential devices running. And that feeling, that sense of preparedness, is something money alone can't fully capture. I also want to talk about something most people never mention when discussing home battery builds, and that's testing before you rely on the system. Once my battery bank was fully assembled, I did not immediately plug it into anything important. I ran small test loads first. I monitored the temperature with my hand nearby, not touching, just checking for any unusual heat. I watched the voltage readings closely during both charging and discharging. I let it run under light load for extended periods before ever trusting it with something critical. This testing phase took a few days, but it gave me the confidence that what I built was not just theoretically safe, but practically safe in real-world use. There was a moment during testing, late one evening, where I sat in my garage just watching the battery bank hum quietly while charging. I thought back to that night 3 years earlier. The smell of smoke, the shaking hands, the fear, and here I was now, sitting comfortably next to a battery system I built myself, one that I understood completely, one that I trusted. That contrast hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just about electronics anymore, it was about turning fear into knowledge and knowledge into something useful. By this point, you might be wondering exactly how everything fit together, how much each specific component cost, and how the final assembly actually came together into a working system. You might also be wondering what mistakes I made along the way, because, trust me, there were a few. And more importantly, you're probably wondering exactly how this whole system performs in a real power outage. Because building something in a quiet garage is one thing, but relying on it when the lights actually go out is a completely different test. That's exactly what we're going to get into next, along with the full cost breakdown, the exact parts list, and the real results from putting this battery bank to the test. Let's finally get into the numbers, because I promised you a full breakdown, and I'm not going to hold anything back. 4 LiFePO4 prismatic cells made up the largest portion of the budget, and even then, sourcing them individually instead of buying a pre-built pack kept that cost reasonable. The battery management system was the second biggest expense, and I want to be clear, this was intentional. I was never going to cut corners here, because the BMS is what keeps the entire system honest. After that came the enclosure, the properly rated wiring, the connectors, the fuse, and a handful of small hardware pieces, like bus bars, heat shrink tubing apps, and mounting brackets. When I added every single receipt together, down to the last dollar, the total came out to right around $240. Not because I got lucky, not because I found some secret hidden discount, but because I made deliberate choices at every single step, spending money where safety demanded it, and saving money everywhere else where it made sense to save. Now let's talk about mistakes, because I think this is the most honest part of the whole story. My first mistake happened during the wiring stage. I initially measured one of my connection points slightly wrong, which caused a loose connection when I first powered things on. I noticed a small amount of unusual warmth near that connector during testing. Nothing dangerous, nothing dramatic, but enough to make me stop immediately, recheck everything, and resolder that connection properly. That small moment reminded me why testing before relying on a system matters so much. If I had skipped that testing phase and gone straight to using this for something critical, that loose connection could have become a real problem over time. My second mistake was underestimating how important labeling and organization would be during assembly. With 4 cells, multiple wires, a BMS, and various connectors, it's incredibly easy to lose track of what connects where, especially if you take a break and come back to the project later. I ended up using simple masking tape and a marker to label every single wire and connection point before finalizing anything. It sounds almost too simple to mention, but this small habit prevented what could have been a confusing and potentially dangerous mix-up. After fixing these early mistakes, I finally got to the moment I had been waiting for. The real test. Not a simulated test in a quiet garage, but an actual power outage. And wouldn't you know it? Just a few weeks after finishing this build, a storm rolled through and knocked out power in my neighborhood for almost 4 hours. Instead of that familiar feeling of helplessness I had felt during previous outages, I walked calmly to my garage, connected my essential devices to the battery bank, and watched everything power on without a single issue. My router stayed on. Our phones stayed charged. A small fan kept the kids comfortable. It wasn't powering my entire house, and I want to be honest about that. And this wasn't designed to replace a whole home generator, but for essential needs, for peace of mind, for keeping my family comfortable and connected during an outage, it performed exactly as I had hoped. Sitting there during that outage, watching my battery bank quietly doing its job, I felt something I hadn't felt in years when it came to home power backup. I felt calm. I felt in control. There was no anxiety about what might go wrong, because I had already tested it, already understood it, already trusted the system I built with my own hands. That feeling alone made every hour I spent researching, every dollar I spent carefully, and every mistake I corrected along the way completely worth it. Looking back at this entire journey, from that terrifying night with a smoking battery in my garage, to sitting calmly during a real outage with a system I built myself for under $250, I realize this project taught me something bigger than just how to build a battery bank. It taught me that fear can either paralyze you or push you to actually understand the thing that scared you. I could have sworn off batteries completely after that first incident. A lot of people would have. But instead, I chose to learn. I chose to research. I chose to respect the process instead of fearing it. And that decision turned a dangerous mistake into a system that now genuinely protects my family. If there is one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that safety and affordability are not opposites. You don't need to spend $1,000 to build something reliable. You don't need to be an electrical engineer to understand the basics of a fire-safe battery system. What you need is patience, respect for the process, and a willingness to prioritize the right things, even if it means spending a little more time researching before you buy a single part. LiFePO4 chemistry gave me a safer foundation. A proper BMS gave me a system that watches itself. Correct wiring, correct fusing, and careful testing gave me the confidence to actually rely on what I built. I know a lot of you watching this are dealing with rising energy costs, unpredictable outages, and a growing desire to feel more prepared without spending a fortune to get there. I built the system because I needed it for my own family. But I'm sharing every detail with you because I believe more people deserve access to this kind of knowledge without being scared off by inflated price tags or intimidating technical jargon. This isn't about becoming an expert overnight. It's about taking one careful step at a time, just like I did. Now here's where I need your help. If this video gave you even a little more confidence about building your own fire-safe battery system, drop a comment below and tell me what you're thinking of powering with your own setup. I read every single comment, and I want to know if you're planning something similar or if you've already built something like this yourself. Your comments genuinely shape what I cover next on this channel, so don't just scroll past. Take 30 seconds and tell me your thoughts. And if you know someone, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, who worries about power outages or who's been hesitant to try something like this because they think it's too expensive or too complicated, do them a favor and share this video with them. It might be the exact thing that helps them feel prepared instead of anxious the next time the lights go out. Hit that like button if you made it this far, share this with someone who needs to see it, and I'll see you in the next video right here on Boring Economic Update.